No.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Game Changer Show. I'm your host, Mike McKay, based in Jacksonville, Florida, and we do this show each and every week. Uh, so this week, I'm doing another one of my solo episodes, and I've got a couple topics that I wanted to talk about today. But the first one um, has been we've really had some marketing challenges the last week. Um, I looked back at our data, and last week and the week before, we generated 56 and 57 raw leads. So that's just like any lead that comes in, including someone who calls in from direct mail and says, "Hey, I want you to remove me for that list," or we have a mobile home website, but we only buy mobile homes with land. So we get a lot of people who call us, but they only have the mobile home. So that's the lowest we've been at, 56, 57 leads all year. Um, so we noticed this slowdown because we track our numbers every week. We noticed this slowdown a couple weeks ago, and you know, our inside sales agents can handle way more leads than that. To put it in perspective, I think 20 something of those leads that came in were either take me off your list from a mailing campaign or a mobile home that didn't have land. So really, we probably only had about 30 leads that came in, and I mean, that's not enough. I looked at our stats for the last few weeks, and we basically need 9, not just leads, but 9 qualified leads to get a contract signed, because obviously people move from a lead to a qualified lead to an appointment booked, and then there's a certain number that convert there. A couple weeks ago, we had noticed this trend, and we really ramped up our direct mail. We put about 20 grand into direct mail, a little over 20 grand in direct mail for this month. And it hasn't all gone out yet, so that wasn't 20 grand in direct mail in 1 week, but we did kind of front load it because I knew we needed to get more leads in, and we really, frankly, haven't seen the results from it. I think of those leads that we got from direct mail, I think only 2 of the calls we got were not removed from lists. I don't know the exact dollar amount of mail that went out last week, but I know we were putting 35% of the mail of the 20 grand in the first week, 35% in the second week of the month, and then the last 30% in the last 2 weeks, if that puts it in perspective at all. So we went back, we double checked everything. All our phone numbers are right. We talked to the mail house. Everything went out like it was supposed to. So that's probably the lowest amount of real leads, qualified leads we've gotten from direct mail in a long time. Also, our cold calling team, we ended up letting someone go about 2 weeks ago, so we were down to only 2 reps. That team ideally operates at about 5 reps, and frankly, we had just taken our eye off the ball with it because we were focused so much on hiring salespeople. We weren't hiring enough cold calling team members to replace people who had transitioned out. So a couple things that we're doing. We talked about it in our L10 meeting today. A couple of things that we're going to do to really ramp up leads. One of them is we haven't done ringless voicemails in forever. And I don't mean like ringless voicemails to like cold people you've never spoken with. I mean, we have a CRM that's got about 7,000 leads from the last 3 years. So we're thinking about dropping some ringless voicemails to people who we've spoken with before, or who have called us before, and just see if anything's changed, or at the very least, maybe they'll see a missed call and start calling back, right? And we'll be there live. We'll have that phone number ring all of the sales reps so that we can always answer those calls live. So I think that's a good way to stir up some activity with what we've already got in there. I did put something in place about 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago at this point. I talked about it on a previous episode. I built a AI, basically an outreach. It texts people, but what it does is when we have our notes from the call, we save all the notes in certain fields, and like based on what we call their pain notes or their reason for selling, the AI actually takes those pain notes, customizes an outreach message to the person that talks about the reason they had spoke with us initially about selling, and kind of ask them a question, and it varies the question every time to see if they're still entertaining that idea or would they be against picking up the conversation to talk about that again. It splits it between no and yes oriented questions. So I did set that up to go out for the next, we're going to send about 80 or 100 messages a day through that to people who are already in our system over the next week. I did have that set up previously, but we noticed last week when we looked at our stats that we hadn't gotten any leads from that. And I had sent about 500 people through there. So I was wondering what was going on. And I guess this shows why it's so important to track your leads by a channel, because I realized I set up something wrong in the automation. And basically for the past 2 weeks, the automation had been filtering people out saying that, oh no, this isn't a person we want to send this text message to because they have a certain tag. I basically reversed a setting in the CRM and basically made a mistake. So I fixed that over the weekend. We already got 2 or 3 leads from that today. So I think that'll probably bring in about 3 leads a day. Other things we're doing, we really are ramping up our cold calling hiring, posting on different job sites, different countries in order to do that. We are also going to try a remarketing campaign with direct mail through our CRM. So anyone who's been a lead in our CRM, I'm not sure yet if we're just going to do it to people who were qualified leads or people who were just leads at all in the CRM. But we're going to send out a mailing campaign to those people, see if that might stir up some interest. I mean, we call those people pretty regularly, but sometimes you're just not able to get people on the phone. So if you can get, them to call you, spend a few $100 to, for mailing qualified leads, we probably have to spend about $300 or $400 to mail those people at about 50-60 cents per person. Or we might decide to mail almost everyone who hasn't sold. And then that would be quite a bit more. So I'll let you guys know that I'll probably have the results of that in about 2 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. And then the last thing we're ramping back up is we have a CRM full of basically of wholesalers, and we haven't really been focusing that at all. I mean, I've been buying some deals from wholesalers, but really just people who reach out to me personally. So maybe I'm buying like a deal from a wholesaler every 2 months. And we have a member of our team who's going to focus on reaching out to those wholesalers proactively, seeing if they have anything that we can buy, anything new under contract, because I do think that there are definitely a lot of deals there. So those are really the 4 things we're going to do. We're going to do the voicemails, we're going to do the remarketing for direct mail, reaching out to wholesalers, and really hiring more cold callers. I want to get the cold calling team up to about 5 or 6 people. And you guys have probably heard me maybe talk about this on the show in the past, but like 5 or 6 people on a cold calling team doesn't bring in just 5 or 6 times more leads than having one person. That team actually gets like exponentially better the more people you have, because the way you set up a cold calling system is it dials a certain amount of lines per agent who's on there. And if you only have 1 or 2 agents, you have to keep the dialer pretty low to only a few lines per person, because otherwise, if multiple people answer at once, it'll hang up on those people, and that's how your numbers get flagged as spam. So at one point, we had a cold calling team of 10 people, and we were actually able to crank the dialer up to 10 lines per person. So we were dialing 100 people at once. And basically, as soon as a cold caller hung up the phone, another person would be there on the other line. Now, that was too much. 10 cold callers was too much for the amount of people that we call in the Jacksonville area. We were just, at that point, we were actually pulverizing our list by just like calling people too many times, or we get a lot of not interested and we put them on, do not call for like 60 days. And we only had about 45,000 people were calling, and if you're dialing 100 lines at a time, it's not that effective. So there is a happy medium depending on your market size, but I think for the greater Jacksonville area that we cover and the percentage of homes that we're reaching out to, I think about 5 or 6 people is right. So yeah, that's been a big challenge in the last week. I mean, I was only able to run 4 appointments last week, but I think with all those changes, we're going to be able to to really ramp up the lead flow. A couple other things that have been on my mind. From running appointments these last few weeks, I realized that for me, like, I've always had the belief that if you can be in front of someone in person, that it's a better sale. Like, you're going to connect with someone better in person, you're going to get to see the house. And what I realized the last few weeks is even though that's a better sale, it's not the kind of sale that works for me anymore. And the reason I bring that up is, I mean, Jacksonville is huge. I mean, we're the biggest city by landmass in the country. And most of these appointments are, you're talking 45 minutes, an hour drive between them. And it's just been exhausting for me to drive from appointment to appointment. And uh, I realized that actually the best chance that I'm going to have of sale, like having like success in the closing role, is for me to be in the best state of mind going into the appointment. And for me, that's not spending an hour before the appointment driving there, especially if I have 2 or 3 appointments for the day. So we decided to make the transition, and we just decided on this today to move towards the phone closing model again. I did that for a long time, and then I transitioned to in person for a while, for a long time too. I mean, I've been in this business for a while. And now I think it's time to transition back to that because I want to be in the best state of mind whenever I'm talking to these sellers. And I think it will also allow me to take more appointments without having to be as strict on the criteria. Because when you're driving to appointments in Jacksonville, in my opinion, like if you have people setting appointments for you, you need to be pretty strict on the criteria because you can run 2, max 3 appointments a day. We're doing everywhere from, Clay County, Keystone Heights, all the way to Jacksonville Beach, right? So that's a pretty far, all the way down to St. Augustine. So it's 2, 3 appointments a day max, and then you kind of want to make sure you have a more qualified appointment if you're going to make that drive. I'm not saying that we're not going to qualify appointments going forward, but I think having the appointments on the phone is going to make it easier to take more swings. And you can be on the phone for 5 minutes with someone on an appointment and say, well, this just isn't going to work. And at least you didn't spend an hour driving each way. And the more and more I build the business, the more and more I realize that we have to build the business around us. And if I can be in a great, relaxed state of mind while I'm on a closing appointment, either if that's working from home or my office or just by sitting by the pool, I think that's going to give me the best opportunity to close the most people. It also kind of aligns with what Luis and I have been talking about recently. So we decided we're going to take a 1-month trip, probably in the beginning of July. We'll leave, and we just want to go spend somewhere else for a month, just to really switch things up, get a new perspective. And I think also, with doing that, having the phone appointments is going to allow that to happen, to be able to work from anywhere. And the more and more we build the team, the more I realize that we're really good at building remote teams. And for a while, for probably about a year and a half at this point, we've been really trying to build this in-person sales team, and frankly we failed at it. And I think what we need to do is lean into things that we're just better at and that we enjoy more. And I think a lot of the people who work for us enjoy working remotely and having this larger pool of talent to pull from, since we do have a system that allows us to screen thousands of applications a week pretty effortlessly, really allows us to hire the best people. So I think that's something that we're going to focus on going forward. On that, actually, while I'm speaking on that note, I think one thing that's kind of allowed us to do that, I think I talked about this a little bit in a previous episode, but I think I mentioned it when I first started designing it, which is this hiring playbook. And now it's actually come to fruition. I think we've got one role that's gone through that. This is the cold caller role up now, and then we're putting up a marketing director role, and that hiring playbook is being used. And I think it's a pretty great thing. It allows us to do everything from designing the role, like the attributes we want, to creating the job post using a chat GPT prompt I built, all the way to the person who is creating the job posts can create the automated system uh, to take that person all the way from applying to doing the one-way video interview to taking the predictive index assessment all the way to self-scheduling their first interview. So previously, a lot of that stuff in terms of automating the process fell on me because I was the person who set up all the automations. And I think it's been a real game changer that I built out that hiring playbook so that now anyone on the team who needs to make a hire for their department can just follow this step by step guide. And I've got templates in there for the workflows and the automations, and they can actually build out the entire process so that they can get the job posts up, automatically screen them, and kind of get them to self book on their calendar for the first interview. So I think that's really, it's interesting to actually see that come to fruition a few months later because it's what I had in mind, but you never know it's really going to work until you actually, see someone else use it. When you kind of build the system, at least this is my experience, sometimes it takes a little bit of tweaking because maybe it's a little bit more complicated than it should be. But actually looking back, I think this was one that I designed in a way that was very simple and very scalable. And I think it's really allowed other team members to be able to, hey, I need to hire someone, and just be able to run with it just by following the steps here. And the last thing I want to talk about for today is Louisa and I have been talking a lot about our Vivid Vision. We were talking about the company Vivid Vision at first, and I know I've shared that with some people. And, we realized that needs to be updated. And we were thinking about the best way to go about updating the company Vivid Vision. And I kept coming back to this idea the last week of, well, the company needs to be built around us and what we want to do. So how do we build a vivid vision for the company around what we want to do? And what I came to the conclusion of is that we need to build a personal vivid vision first. I mean, we've been good about setting goals, about writing down things and experiences we wanted, but we don't quite have the same level of clarity for our personal vision as we do for the business. So we decided, I think it's either this Friday or next Friday, we decided to block off the entire day. We're going to book an Airbnb somewhere Thursday night through Saturday morning just to kind of get out of the environment. I find like when I'm doing like the vision planning, it's like way easier to do if I'm not sitting at my desk or if I'm not sitting at my home office or my, my environment that I'm always in. I find that I have a lot more ideas when I go somewhere new. So we're going to book an Airbnb Thursday to night to Saturday morning, and we're going to spend Friday focused on building our personal vision for the next 3 years. So it's going to be in the Vivid Vision format. I haven't decided exactly how it's going to look yet. I mean, I'm going to go back through the book Vivid Vision. If no one's read that, that's a great book if you're thinking about doing this. And I'm going to, we're going to create the personal one. And from there, we decided what we're going to do is we'll create the personal one, or at least a rough draft of it, like a pretty strong rough draft. And then we're going to give it maybe about like 2 weeks just to just sit there. And we're going to go back and revisit it 2 weeks later and say, okay, let's tweak this, let's tweak that. And that way we can finalize that within the next few weeks. And then I think once we have that personal vivid vision written out, then what we'll do is we'll rewrite the business vision. And some things may stay the same, but I think a lot of things are going to be updated. And if anyone's not familiar with the concept of the vivid vision, check out the book. It's pretty great. I think it's by Cameron Harold, and basically it's writing out exactly what it could be for your business or it could be for your personal life, but exactly what your business or your personal life is going to look like in 3 years. And I find it really interesting because a lot of people talk about vision boards, and I'm a big believer in vision boards. But he makes a really interesting point in the book that I like, which is if you give pictures to people who are not you, like people say, like a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Well, if you're trying to get your vision across to someone, that's the problem with just giving them a vision board. I could have a picture of a beach or a house on there, and it means something totally different to someone else than it means to me. So I like his idea of really writing out the vision. Obviously, there's going to be some nice pictures in there, things that appeal to us. But then when you write it out, it really allows you to share it with other people, and other people can see how they can be a part of your vision. And I've found that I haven't done a personal one yet, so I'm excited to do it. But I've found that in the business, when we give the vision to someone, because we in our hiring process we send it to people before their first interview, and it either does one of two things. It either totally repels people, like they're like, well, I don't want to work here, like I'm not going to get along with these people, and that's great. Like, we want to work with the people who we want to work with, right? So maybe that vision turns off some people, and that's part of the idea, right? That's a good thing. And the second part of it is that some people will read it and they're like, wow, like I really want to work here. And I think that it's been a good tool for recruiting, because he does make another point in the book for the business vision, which is if you don't have a vision for your business, then people who work for you or your vendors, they're going to judge you on the company that you are today. If you share your vision with them, they're going to see how they can grow with you over the next 3 years, and they're going to see the same opportunities that you see. So I think it's really helped us on the business side, but I think I wrote it about a year and a half ago, so I think it needs to be refined, based on what our personal vision comes out to be. And yeah, I'll keep everyone posted on the personal vision. I'll definitely be sharing it once it's done, so that'll probably be about a month from now. I'll post it on social media. So I think that's all I got for today. So thanks everyone for joining, and yeah, see you next week.